Hello, everybody. How is it going? Okay, great, good to hear. Um, Apparently I'm dropping frames. I don't know why. I think my Wi-Fi should be okay, but hopefully that's not too distracting. Okay, guys, we are starting the speedrun today. I'm gonna warm up with some Puzzle Rush, I think, and then we'll just get right into it. Can't stream super long today because I got some other stuff going on. Also, it's a little darker than usual because my ring light broke. And so I have to use the light from my window, which is going to be going away slowly as the afternoon progresses for me, because the sun sets at like 4:30 now, so that's fun. All right, let's run some Puzzle Rush, as is tradition. How shall we do this? Stream. Wait, am I on? Where am I? Okay, there we go. Stream reverse. Wait, where is it? What? Hold on. There it is. We did it. Probably should have checked this at the beginning, but that's alright. Okay. I wasn't gonna use this scene anyway. Was it showing Spotify? Alright. It should be good now. Alright, let us run some music. Run some music. Play some music. No. No. Yes. Alright, we'll just do a little bit of Puzzle Rush to warm up, and then we'll start the speed run. We'll talk about that when I'm done with the Puzzle Rush. Oh my gosh, I'm so slow. I haven't played chess in a few days. Oh, there's a bishop there. Here? There's more? I won the queen. What? What else do you want from me? Wrong move order. Oh. This? What do you mean? What am I missing? This? Why are these so hard today? This does not bode well for the speedrun. What the world? Oh, I forgot. Oh, okay, I forgot they were gonna take with the queen. Okay, we better do another one. Hi guys, welcome. We're gonna do one more because I want to get a higher score. I haven't played chess in a few days. Give me a break. This is why we're doing this, to warm up. I think I can just run. There we go. Oh, I thought I was winning the bishop. If my mouse would cooperate, that would help. Here? I knew that was wrong. I just couldn't be bothered to figure out what it actually was. Like this, I guess. How is that wrong? Oh, there's a queen. Alright. We made it. I've actually been like crushing Puzzle Rush recently, kind of. Some days. I've been getting like 33, 34, 35. Easy. Alright. Let's turn off the music, first of all. Unfortunately, because these will be going on YouTube, I can't have music playing. At least until I figure some other things out for storing the videos. I need to get a couple terabytes of storage that I just don't have. Alright, let's set this up. Stream basic. Oh, I should probably log into my speedrun account. That would be a good idea. I'm not gonna speedrun starting at 2015 or whatever I am right now. Okay. Please hold, please hold. One day the music will be set up to not be included in the VOD. It is if I record directly to my PC, but I'm out of storage right now. So it hasn't been working. So I have to like download it from Twitch, and then sometimes that doesn't work. So long story. I figured out how to do it. I just can't do it as it is right now. If that makes sense. It probably doesn't. There's probably a way to do it even with the problems that I have. But okay. Let's make sure this all looks good. Today is not that day. Sag. Uh, stream basic. Okay. Okay, let's take the follower goal out. We're actually really close to hitting 1,000 followers. Let's go. Am I like... I think I'm still dropping frames. It's really annoying. Is my audio like super delayed? Or does it just... Does that not... Is that not how it's working? I don't know why it's doing that. Just a little bit of a scuffed stream, as is tradition. Okay. Sync seems good. Perfect. That's the only thing I'm really worried about. I don't care if there's drop frames otherwise. Does everything look good? I think it does. This is like the start to every video that I record, in case you guys didn't know. Do you like the account name? Because my other one is Small Town Goose, so I made this one Big City Moose as the antithesis or something. I don't know. It's also really sad to see the stats because I had to play like a few games on it to make the rating deviation thing so that it wouldn't just like give me like, 4,000 points when I won my first game. So I started at like an advanced rating and I got up to like 1,900. And then I dropped to 200. So here we are. I'm glad you guys like the name. Okay, guys, today we are starting the speedrun. So, what this is going to entail is me playing... Okay, we're actually going to play 15 plus 10 because I think I don't want to worry about running out of time. I'd rather have the time to explain during the game. Sandbagging, exactly. But that's the whole point of the speedrun. So, obviously, I'm not a title player, and so my insights may not be quite as advanced as some other ones that even I like to watch. I really like watching speedrun content. But what I think I'm going to bring to the table with this particular concept of a speedrun, as somebody who started playing chess, literally learned how the pieces moved like 2.5 years ago, I think that I personally remember what it was like to be in the rating band of the same people that I'm going to be playing. And so I remember how I thought when I was a lower rating, because it was so recently. A lot of title players haven't been, rated 200 since they were little kids, right? So I think I'll give a little bit of unique insight as far as that, and we'll just try our best. I think it'll be fun. Tenno, and you give some insights during and some after. I would just rather have the cushion, is what I've decided. I did, okay, this is kind of embarrassing. I practiced doing this off stream. Like, I practiced just, like, talking as I was playing. And there always got to a point, like, near the end of the game where I just, like, stopped talking. And I don't want that to be the case because I was, like, running out of time. Like, I was down, like, 5 minutes. So I think there will be a lot during the game, and then, like, we can also look at some of how to analyze your games afterwards. I think that'll also be helpful. So that's what I've decided. Also just a little bit about how we're going to be like thinking about chess as we do the speedrun. Uh, yeah, getting flagged by 400 would be embarrassing, exactly. Honestly, not out of the question. Who did I lose to? It was somebody, I can't even remember. I'm pretty sure I've lost to a 400 on time. So it's definitely not out of the question. But okay. We won't be talking about specific opening theory. That's not what this is going to be about. It's very much like 0 to hero. We're just going to start with the super basic concepts that you need to know, basic principles, basic questions you should be asking yourself, and hopefully that will just help you fix your thought process, make it a little bit more helpful for your long-term improvement, or just, enjoy watching me beat up on some 200s. I don't know. No, but honestly, if you're like a higher rated player, there's actually also some stuff to gain from this, because I think as somebody who I often play people, especially in over the board tournaments, who are a lot lower rated than me, and when I was first starting to like do that and face like a lot lower rated opposition, I had the tendency to think that I needed to win a lot faster for some reason, and so I would play really crazy out of the opening, and it often came back to bite me, and so I would lose like a ton of rating points over the board just because like I wasn't playing just like a normal person, I was trying to like game the system and get a quick win. But if you just follow your opening principles, you can just kind of play good chess and your opponent will theoretically just fall apart. So we'll see how that goes. All right, are we ready? Everybody good? Oh my gosh, I moved. Was it the last stream where I put the cat right here? Can't remember. I'm here to learn how to punish unprincipled opening play. My problem is that the moves are so random that it's impossible to calculate anything. Yeah, that's another thing. Your opponents at lower levels in like the 3-digit club will not be playing openings that you study. Like they will most likely run out of opening theory on like before move 5. So hopefully the principles will help with that. Oh my goodness, Mr. Tene, thank you for the gift subs. I really appreciate it. Guys, say thank you. Okay, we have the black pieces, and we have d4. So, right off the bat, opening principles. You want to control the center. These are the center squares. You want to control these with pawns and pieces. So we're going to take an equal share of the center by playing the d-pawn forward. Simple stuff. Okay, the knight comes out. And so the 3 things that you need to do out of the opening. Control the center, which I just talked about. Develop your pieces, by which I mean mostly the minor pieces. So the rook, or the rooks, the knights and the bishops. The rooks will come into play later in the game when there's fewer pieces and pawns on the board and they can use their open lines that they have the ability to use. And then get your king to safety. So we're going to continue with development. I'm going to move the knight out. Typically you go knights before bishops, but that's not always the case. It really depends on the opening. Okay. Knight out. So we can move this bishop out. We can move this knight out. Usually in d4 openings, it's best to keep this as a possibility to play. So I'm thinking to move the bishop out. Let's just go here. Kind of a reverse London type of thing. Develop the queen. Push pawns. Activate the king. You're getting it right, Boy Shack. Okay, so when our opponent makes a move, there's a question we should ask ourselves. What does that move do? So what does this move do? It, gets the queen off the starting square. It's developing the queen. The problem with this move is it's blocking in the bishop, and usually you want to develop your minor pieces, like I said, before you develop your major pieces, like the queen and the rooks. So I would say this is not a good move. It's also generally not a good move to move your queen out in the opening, just because there's more pieces on the board, and so there's more chances for it to get trapped. So I imagine they're going to look at something like this and try and get our bishop, but we can just protect the bishop and continue developing pawns like this. And now notice with this pawn move, it also opens up for our other bishop to come out. If this knight were to move and attack the bishop, we can just slide back, like it's all good. Open up the rook. I don't think that's what they're going to do. Is this a speedrun to a specific rating? I am not quite sure what rating we're going to go to. I think at least 1,000. So it's going to be mostly just a beginner speedrun. But depending on how it goes, we might go for like 1,200 or something like that. All right, what does this move do? It seems to give up a pawn. I guess the question then is, what if the rook comes over, attacks the bishop, and then we might lose this pawn? But if we calculate a little bit further, after takes here, if the rook moves over, we can actually trade here, and after the queen takes, we can actually just slide the queen over or like push this pawn to protect it. And I think that's okay. I don't think this is a poison pawn. Yeah. All right, let's take the pawn. I like free stuff. Let's take the free stuff. Yeah, thanks, Farze. I appreciate it. All right, yes. Okay, queen moves out. And so, yes, what does this move do? It kind of pins the knight to the queen, but it doesn't really because it's a queen. The other thing this move does is it undefends this knight. So if we take it, it's going to be with check, and then we're going to win even more material because it's technically a fork. Because if the bishop comes out to protect, we win the rook. So let's take more free stuff. Yeah, opponent got the memo to develop the queen. By the way, if you're watching on YouTube, the full VOD will be available on a new VOD channel that I created. So I'll probably, on this first one, be linking that in the comments. So you can check that out if you want to watch more of this. Uncut, unfiltered. So what have we learned so far? Development. Get our pieces out. Don't move the same piece twice in the opening. And take free stuff. That's all you gotta do. Oh, our opponent said hi in the chat. In the game chat. I think he said this before I started winning material. Thank you for the sub. Appreciate it. 4 months. That's crazy. That's like since I started streaming. Super appreciate it. Only 12 minutes left to burn. Yeah, see, this is the problem, is a lot of times we might get people who just kind of sit and make us wait. So we'll have to learn to make conversation. So how's it going, everybody? Okay, and we get resigns. Nice. So let's just take a quick look. There's not too much to review because it ended pretty quickly. Oh my gosh, I got 100% accuracy. No way, I've never gotten this in my life. Hold on. Look at this. I'm a genius. It's kind of hard to talk myself up when I'm playing against a 200. Okay, so book moves, book moves. These are all book moves. Best move. Yeah, so one thing I would recommend to my opponent is before you move a piece to a square, you gotta look at the entire board. And what I've heard is a lot of times beginners, like, just on the basis of just starting out with chess, can only see like a 3-square radius around a piece that they're about to move. And so, you know, long diagonals are kind of a weakness oftentimes, especially when the piece is like still undeveloped. It's kind of hard to see. But before you move a piece to a square, you gotta look at the whole board, make sure there's no piece that can capture that piece. And the other problem with this is it undefends the knight, right? So even if like this wasn't the case, they'd played like anything else, we could have gone here. Oh, why are we lagging? Okay, we're good. We could have gone here, and we already have a slight advantage. May not be the best move, but you see what I mean. Because the queen is here and because the knight is here, like there's just a lot of pins along this diagonal. So moving this pawn, you get the point. Added even less defense. Okay, let's play another game. We get black again. Hopefully we get white eventually. That would be nice. Yeah, the 15 minutes is so that I can talk. And I guess I just talk a lot. Alright, e4. We will try to switch up openings probably eventually. But I do want to just start off with my main repertoire, which is the French. I don't like to recommend to anybody to like play certain openings because I'm like, there's plenty of opening videos, just like figure out what you like, it's fine. Okay, and we have the French exchange. I actually like this for beginners because it gets rid of tension very quickly. And tension is when two pieces are looking at each other and there could be a capture there. So if they had left these pawns staring at each other, that's just one more thing that you have to think about in addition to everything else on the board. So I think especially for beginners on like the third move, if there's pawns that are looking at each other, resolving that tension is usually a good idea. Usually. It depends on the opening, but if you don't know for sure, I recommend just take the pawn, like our opponent did. And if they left it there, I would say just take the pawn. Because it's just one less thing to think about. Okay, so what does this move do? It attacks our pawn. It is defended by the queen, but we can defend this in a couple of ways. We can move the knight out. We can start building a pawn chain like this. We can move the bishop out. We also don't have to do any of these things, but it's good to just, you know, add more defenders. Let's defend with the pawn, build a pawn chain, and then we'll see where we want to develop our pieces. Playing the French creates bad opening habits. I don't think so necessarily, and I think especially with the French exchange, it becomes a very open game. I think the advance is a little bit more advanced, hence the name. That's not why it's called the advance, but if we get that, I'll explain that in due time as well. But we have enough space. We have space for our bishop. It's all good. Okay, this is a move. I think it's a fine move. I think we will continue with development like this. That seems fine. Our king is kind of open in the center, but we can actually just go like this. And I think that's all right. So our opponent, what does this move do? It opens up a space for the bishop to come here or here. Most likely it's going to come here, but because we're playing somebody who's rated 126, this is also a possibility. All right, let's just continue development. Let's actually put the knight here. And then if we get the check, we'll just slide the bishop back. Or we can develop another piece. There's lots of options. So one thing I will say is pushing a bunch of pawns isn't necessarily a great idea, especially when you probably want to castle this way. So our opponent has developed one piece, and we're about to have developed 3 pieces, and we're playing with the black pieces. So pushing pawns, you'd rather get more pieces in the game than more pawns in the game. So we can go here, continuing to add pressure to the center, and just put the piece on a good square, I guess. I'm eventually thinking to jump the knight here, I believe. So I like this move. So now we've got 3 pieces developed, and our opponent only has 1. They do have a lot of pawns developed, though. Pawn activity, that's right. Okay, so I was just gonna say, I think we want to castle on the next move. I think that is probably still a decent option. The problem is that these pawns could start to overrun the king, so we could consider castling queenside, although our pawns are kind of opened up over here. But I'm not really seeing... Let me think for just a minute. I'm not sure if there's necessarily a way in. So my thought is to develop the knight like this. If they continue to push pawns, we'll deal with that. But maybe even consider castling queenside. Not sure. This is the problem with weird openings. You kind of have to think a little bit harder. Because this is not something I'd ever face at my level. Which means that you know it's probably bad. If it's not something you'd see in an opening course, you know it's bad, but a lot of times it's just hard to figure out how to deal with that. Okay, I was wondering about this. So this is defended by the queen, 1 piece, and this is where counting comes into play. It's attacked by 1, 2 pieces. So if we actually count this out, if we take, the queen takes, we win the queen. Not with that, but with the knight. They're obviously not going to do that, but that's why we can win the pawn. And so the question is, do we want to take it with the bishop or the knight? I like taking with the bishop just because it attacks the queen right away. So let's go for it. All right, the queen moves. Very nice. And now I think it's probably safe to castle kingside. We can also throw in this move as a check, but that does help them develop pieces. But we can see, I don't know. We can also just go here and then castle queenside like I was talking about before. Although they do have more pawns over here now that they can start pushing. So I think castling kingside is okay. And you have to think, okay, it looks like these pawns are coming close. This pawn, like, it can move up, but it's not really going to do anything. It can't ever get to these pawns, which is what we're more worried about. If this guy ever goes forward, well, we can just take it. So I think I'm happy to castle here. Our pieces are doing a nice job of holding down the white position. And since we're up a pawn, and because our king, or their king, is in the center, we can now start going on the attack. So I'm already thinking of moves like this. We can also capture, that helps them develop a piece, which is fine. But I do actually like this move, or even this move. And then with the idea of putting the knight in the center. I think let's bring the rook in, give the check. I did change my setup. Oh, and you know what? I was gonna put the other scene on. I think I did that for the first one. Let's switch it. Good reminder, even though that's not what I think you meant to do. Our opponent is staying over 10 minutes, or 10 minutes, 15 minutes. I'm under 10 minutes. So since we're up a pawn, we're happy to trade. And hopefully we can just convert the pawn advantage that we do have. Oh, interesting. Okay, so they had two choices, capturing with the queen or capturing with the knight. Because our rook is here, the knight was the better option. Because now we can just take the queen, and now we're up a queen. Okay, so now the king can't castle, the queen is gone, we're up a ton of material. We can give another check, that's probably the most obvious move, just get the queen involved. I like this, not gonna think about it too hard. There's probably some better options here. And then the one piece that isn't involved yet in, you know, the general center of the board is the rook. So we can go ahead and swing that over. And now we're looking at possible mating ideas. So this knight is guarding these two squares, which is where I'd like to give a check with the queen. Oh, but they just helped us out. They moved the knight. So what's the better check? We can go here. Our opponent can't go here. I should maybe make that another color. Here. That's off limits. They could go here. They can't go here. Oops. And they can't go on any of these squares, so they could go here. This is how you gotta start thinking. Then we can bring the knight check if they go here, right? So I think this is probably a good move. The other option would be here. And in the case they go here. So I think this move is probably better because it's cutting off more squares. So before, remember, these were the only two squares they could go. In the case we make this move, then this is the only square that they can go. So let's go here. Now we'll see if we can find our mate. I think it's a pretty nice one. Does anybody see the mate? Tis mate in one. You can type the move in chat if you'd like. Two knight checks. Yep, exactly. So we can go here or we can go here. There we go. So notice that even though the knight was previously holding down the square, because we moved the queen up, then that's taking care of that square, not allowing them to escape when the knight moves up, and we got the mate. Beautiful. All right. Yes, the centralized knight is better principally, I will say. Let's run a quick game review. Maybe won't do these on all of them. Okay, yeah, so this move is a fine move, just holding it down. The problem I would say with pushing the pawn like this is it takes the square that would normally be occupied by the knight. When you see mate in one, look for better, exactly. Look for the prettier one. So that I would say that's the only downside of this move is that the knight is no longer going to go to the square that it would normally like to go to. But in this case, just frankly, I've played this opening enough to know that it's better to just hang on to this pawn, long term, than to have it be isolated in the center. It's better to have all the pawns holding hands if you possibly can. And because, like, you can see it on the other side, this pawn is just slightly weaker because it doesn't have another pawn holding on to it, defending it. So they're defending their pawn with pieces instead of other pawns. But yeah, pretty simple stuff. Okay, they say this is an inaccuracy. Probably. What did they want instead? They wanted castles. Yeah, fair enough. I think we talked about that during the game as well. And then because the king is in the center, we can just move the rook in, probably just start giving some checks and start going after the king, because they're just not developing their pieces and getting their king to safety. It does sometimes give weird evaluations, that's true. And it's not a huge difference. I'm not going to switch the scene every time, but it's saying that it's still better for black, the move that I made, which is here. It's almost a pawn worth of advantage, so. Yep, and then our opponent started mindlessly pushing pawns, gave up a pawn, and this is the best move because it also attacks the queen. This is called making a move with tempo, meaning that we're forcing our opponent to use a move to deal with a threat that we're creating when they would rather make a more practical move like developing pieces. And developing the queen is not considered developing in this case because it's being forced. Yep, and then this was their mistake, taking with the queen. And we finished the game. I don't think I had a faster mate. Maybe I did. Nope, I didn't. Okay. Nice. So a lot of times at when you're evaluating your games afterwards, it shouldn't take too long. You should find pretty quickly the moves that you either made an insane blunder, like this. In this case, they just blundered a pawn and then they blundered their queen. Once you start getting into the more like positional type mistakes where the computer tells you that it's a mistake and you don't really understand why, that's when you have to start spending a little more time with the engine and the evaluation, or a coach talking through it with somebody. But let's play another game. And we'll keep the scene looking nice and pretty now. Okay, we finally have the white pieces. So I would be happy to play the London system, and we'll see how a 337 responds to this. So again, I'm not going to be talking specifically about theory stuff, but for the most part, I'll be playing openings that are generally in my repertoire, just because I know them. Makes sense to play stuff you know. But I think this opening does do a good job of also following opening principles, which is why it's a good opening for all levels of play, but especially for beginners too, because it controls the center. Okay, and we have the queen attack. So this can be an intimidating move, no matter where it comes from. The point is that they're trying to attack this pawn and give a quick checkmate. In this case, it doesn't work so well because we played the d pawn. So this bishop can never come out and give the scholar's mate. The only thing we have to worry about is not dropping pieces and then developing with tempo, attacking the queen and forcing it to move. So we don't want to just mindlessly develop because we're going to lose the bishop. But we can make a typical move in the London anyway, which is to just move the pawn up and protect the bishop. and then we'll worry about getting this queen out of here. But if you generally just play opening principles, the game is essentially going to play itself, and your opponent will very quickly regret bringing their queen out because they're going to have to spend a million tempo moving their queen around. Okay, so the knight moves out. What does this move do? It develops a piece. Very good. Does this prevent us from continuing our plan of developing and attacking the queen? No, it doesn't. We can just move the knight out. This knight isn't threatening anything. We can move out the knight and just make the queen move again. Not taking c7. Yeah, c7 is hanging. Yes, it is. Good catch. I guess the thing I'm trying to hammer home, though, which, by the way, they blundered it again, is that if you just continue developing your pieces, even if you miss stuff like this, you'll blow your opponent off the board. So now if we take, I guess the threat would be to block with d6, which I suppose was the threat before too. And then we can't move out here because obviously the knight would take. So this is actually a poison pawn. At least as far as I'm calculating it. So we can actually just continue with development. In the London, you want to typically build this pawn pyramid, so that's a good move. But also developing pieces is a good move. We could go here with the bishop, we could go here with the bishop, and then in most d4 openings, you don't want to put your knight here, which is more typical in like e4 openings, but you want to put the knight here so it can refill if this knight ever moves to the center, which is where we eventually want it to go. But let's develop the bishop, and then we'll plan to castle. Pieces out. King to safety. What's the third one? Control the center. Don't worry, I remember them all. We already started controlling the center, that's why I forgot about it. But now if you're looking at this position objectively, right, again, similar to the last game, we've got 3 pieces developed. They have 1 and a queen, which I don't consider developing a piece, because typically you don't want to bring your queen out until later in the game. What is the plan after queen b4 check here? So if the queen comes here, that is a good question. It's usually fine to give up this pawn just because the queen is making so many moves that we can very quickly attack it. So we can honestly just block with the knight. There we go. This is probably not the best move because after this here, then they win the pawn, right? So we're happy to go here, give up this pawn, and then after this knight moves, the queen will protect the rook, and we're all good. And this is a little bit more of an advanced concept. Yeah, that was a great prediction. Yeah, you can sometimes trap the queen. This is such like a weird opening that I'm not exactly sure how. But even like things like this. Yeah. But even imagine if we castled, right? We could castle. We have all of our pieces out. They don't have any of their minor pieces out. These pieces being on the back rank is worth us losing a pawn. Even 2 pawns, frankly. Because we'll just get in faster. So I'm considering just quickly if there's any way to trap it, because if we go here, they have this. And it's not quite happening. The only other thing would be like this maybe, and then this, or then they have this. It doesn't seem like it's happening quite yet. I think I would rather castle, just get the king to safety, and then we can worry about trapping the queen. You generally prefer a solid positional advantage over activity for a pawn or two, so you prefer c3 over bishop d3. Yeah, I think probably if we look at the analysis, c3 would have been better, just with this being the threat. Okay, and now we have this move. Right, so we don't have to leave this knight here. We could just move the knight. And then where does the queen go? The queen goes here. Oh, it feels like there should be a way to trap it. I'd love to trap this queen. Even something like this. So we could also go here and force this move, I suppose. Here. That doesn't quite work. Let me think for just another minute. I'm thinking of this move. It just attacks the queen. After the queen moves here or here. Oh, it can't go here because we take it. After the queen moves here, then we can bring in the rook. And then the move I'm considering or thinking about is this one. In which case I think we can just go here and I think we're all good. We might be losing too many pieces for that, but I think this is at least the right starting move. So let's go with it. I believe the queen only has one square to go. Queen can just go to a5. I'm assuming you meant in the other line I was looking at, if this. Yeah. Yep, okay, so now this is the threat, and I think they have to play this move. So prophylactically, it might even be worth going here to prevent that move? Maybe. It is taking a lot of time. So I wonder if I've got anything better after b5? Because this does trap the queen, but they can take, so 2 pieces for the queen. That's probably fine though, because then I can just move the rook. Yeah, I think we're good. Maybe the other possibility would be this move? No, but then we still play this. So you can see it takes a little bit of thought. Oh, I guess I didn't consider this one. But I believe it's the same principle. Because we can go here. After takes, we can take. And after, I mean, then they have a choice to take either here or here. Probably taking the rook is better. So then we'd be down a minor piece and a rook for the queen. And we'll have to deal with that. But we have so many pieces developed that I think this is just, it's gotta be just GG's. So this is an example. They attacked our knight, but we can attack a larger value piece with the queen. I believe this is what Gotham calls danger levels. So it's just attacking the queen as a counter threat to our knight being under attack. And I think if they play it right, they'll come out even, but I would just rather beat up a queen. Maybe h5 could have held on. Knight a5. Oh yeah, that probably would have been the better one. But then we could take. But they wouldn't be losing the queen. Okay, so they decide to take the rook. Yes, great point. They're also losing their biggest developed piece, and they have no activity after this. Yeah, so because we have all of our pieces developed and they still have 2 minor pieces on the back rank, and their king is in the center, again, it's just worth it. We'll take with the pawn, and after takes, we'll probably take with the bishop. Yeah. Because then we have the possibility of going here, and we keep our pawns together. If we take in with the pawn, we'd have this isolated guy over here. It does create a bigger pawn chain, technically, but this just gives our bishop a little bit more scope. A little bit more room to work. Yeah, we'll definitely have to analyze this after. I think there was probably a way they could have gotten out of this. Or at least gotten more material for it. Okay, so now we could actually just take this pawn. They're threatening to castle, or I guess not threatening. They're planning to castle. But that's okay. There's no way at this point to keep the king in the center. So we'll just take more free stuff. Another thing to notice is that our pieces are, other than this one, they're being held on by pawns. They're not out in the middle of nowhere. So this is probably their most active piece. There's not at the moment a way to get rid of it. But because we're up a queen, we could start trading off with ideas like this. And then, yeah, I think this works. This is a typical move. You want to put your knight in the center and over the center line, protected by a pawn. If they take, we can take back with the bishop, so we don't have to double our pawns. If they, the only other thing would be like moving the knight here or moving the knight here to attack the bishop. And in that case, I think we can just take, and if takes, we can take. So we'll go here. Just stick in the knight in the center. Free is the best price, exactly. Oh, I just finished watching Anna Cramling's stream, now onto my other favorite streamer. I hope you mean me. That seems like a setup for, see you later, I'm gonna go watch, you know, who else is live? Hikaru, or whatever. Okay, so this is a good move actually, because it will separate these 2 pawns, and when pawns aren't next to each other like this, if one of these pawns was here, it makes for an easier target for us. So even though this is nice to have our knight in the center, I think long term it'll be better to do this. Also, they're threatening here. It's not a huge deal, but we will have to move the rook. And frankly, it might even be easier to just give the rook up. But what we can do is give the rook a little bit more space. Because imagine it was black to move. They could go here, attacking the rook. Our rook only has 1 square to go if we don't want to lose it to the knight. And then as soon as the knight moves, our rook's going to be under attack again. So what would be better is if we can just prevent this in the first place, or not prevent it, but give the rook a square to run by going here, which is why I keep making this arrow. Because after this, it gives the rook the whole back row to play with, and we can even just move it to where the queen was before. This also does the job right away of just attacking the knight, so the knight can't just continue to sit here. So I'm pretty happy to make this move. Another thing this move does, it lines up against this target that I was talking about that we created on the last move. So even after a move like this, we're already threatening stuff. This move also, there's so many things this move does. It lines up for the h7 square, which is a weakness now that the knight has moved away from its defense of that square. That's often why you want your knights on these squares, especially when you're castling that way. I'm reading a book right now that's saying the knight on, you know, f3, c3, wherever you're castled, f6, c6, is the best defender of the king, the best piece to sit there to defend the king. And you'll see that in a lot of openings. Okay, great. Thank you for the raid. Sorry, I can't read that. Raw Change, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Big shout out. How is the stream, guys? We're doing a speedrun right now. Just started today. And, oh, I'm kind of running out of time. Good thing there's increment. So what does this move do? It attacks the rook. We gotta move the rook. We can just move the rook here. I don't see why not. It also attacks the bishop, but that doesn't matter because it's defended a million times. So let's go. And the only other move that I would be looking at is this move, attacking the rook because it's on a dark square, but then we just win the knight. And then if takes, we just win. Hello, hello. Welcome, welcome, raiders. Really appreciate the raid. Doing great. How's it going, everybody? Sad to see the light square bishop potentially go. I wanted to line up towards h7. Wait, what does that mean? Oh, we met the follower goal. Let's go! Oh my gosh, so much is happening. She's a fellow American streamer currently in EU. Nice, nice, nice. What's up, Rookie? How's it going? Here to learn. All right. I hope you learned something. We kind of already blundered a pawn, but it was kind of on purpose. Okay, anyway, let's get back to the raid. We have 6 minutes, the raid, the speedrun. I'm mixing up all my words. Thanks for all the follows, guys. I really do appreciate it. We'll chat a little bit more after this game. Okay, so the rook moves out. I do like the idea that was mentioned in chat, dropping this back, and this is what I was thinking before, just looking to attack the h7 pawn. And I think I'm pretty happy to do that. Another thing this does is, even if they defend that pawn, it allows us to capture this one. And then we're kind of forking the rooks because this bishop isn't defended or isn't developed. After the bishop develops, it's, you know, it's going to be lost. Unless they have something I missed. It was a gambit, exactly. Yeah, we are doing a speedrun today, guys. Okay, so our opponent sort of foresaw this. And so now let's talk about forcing moves. Checks, captures, threats. The most forcing move is a check. You have to respond to it. That's what makes it forcing, is that it's a check. So immediately I'm considering this check. After the king moves, we got to do something about this bishop. The problem is this bishop is hanging, right? So we could move it back. That's a possibility. Then our bishop could get trapped in. That would be the only problem. So I'm actually thinking to move this bishop first, continue creating this threat, and then maybe look at grabbing this guy. Because that still is a possibility. I guess the other option would be here, and after the king moves here, threatening the rook. I'm not quite sure which one's the best. I can't quite calculate it all the way. We could also go here right away without the forcing move of the check. And the reason that I'm sort of discarding this move is that the bishop has the potential to get trapped, and we already have a bishop that's hanging, so why create more weaknesses? So that's more of a one-move threat, even though it does win a pawn. So I'm actually considering this move. And after here, we can take the rook. I think the rook is just trapped, I'm pretty sure. This also defends this bishop. So let's go for it. So even though this looks like a very strong move, the threat of back rank mate now is actually a real possibility. So what does this move do? It just simply attacks the rook. It also defends the bishop. And now even after the queen moves, the bishop is still defended by the rook down on c1. So tricks are too much fun to ignore. True. But we're gonna try and play principled here. As principled as possible, anyway. Because you will never have this exact position in a game. And so I think it's better to learn general principles that you can apply to your games, to any game that you ever play, than a specific trick that only works in a certain position that you will most likely never be able to recreate until you're a lot better at recognizing patterns. Hope that makes sense. But tricks are fun. If we get the opportunity for tactical tricks, we will definitely take them. Now bishop d8 might be annoying. Bishop d8. Oh, I see what you mean. I thought you were talking about this bishop. I was like, how is it going to get to d8 in more than like 7 moves? Queen c6 is super game over though. If it did not attack rook a8, then I think bishop f4 might have trapped the knight on d2 after e4. Yeah, we'll take a look at all the possibilities after the game. I think this will be a good one to analyze, because I think I definitely made some mistakes here. I at least had some missed wins. So I'll kind of show you guys how to best use the computer to your advantage and not get so bogged down in the specific lines, but learn it, again, just more of the principles of what they're asking or what they're suggesting. Because sometimes the computer will suggest a move and it's like, yeah, there's no way a human is ever going to find that. And so you can just ignore it. But I think a lot of times it's hard to know when to ignore it. Let's see, what time is it? Okay, we'll probably be able to fit a couple more games in here. Man, I really do miss the music. I'm gonna have to figure this out. It's so awkwardly quiet. I need some jams. But I just don't want to get destroyed. Oh, interesting. Okay, so the question is, can we continue with our plan? Can we take this rook? No, because then this rook is hanging. And then we're the ones getting checkmated. Can we take this rook? Yeah, we definitely can take this rook. The other thing is to consider forcing moves. So we can actually look at this move, and after the bishop blocks the checkmate, because it's not quite a checkmate, because the bishop can come back and block, then we can win this rook. And then the question is, what if this move? So I recommend always thinking one move further, right? So we give the check, we're like, yay, it's checkmate. No, okay, we got this to block. These rooks are still looking at each other. We can still win the rook. And then after this move, I guess I would just consider taking here. I mean, why not? Defends the rook, and then we'll win the bishop on the next move. I don't see anything else after here. I think I'm calculating everything. So here, we only have 2 minutes left. Then this, so then the question is, do they have any forcing moves? I guess this might be the only other one, but then we just win this rook. So yeah, I think I'm happy to go here. Yeah, this is very tricky because we can't continue with our previous plan, right? So a lot of people would just continue and be like, oh, I'll still win the rook and blunder the back rank. So you have to always think, what does that move do? And then what does my move do after I move whatever piece I'm thinking to move? Yep, so they only have one option here, and now we can capture this rook. And now because this rook is on the 7th, pig's on the 7th, is a term you'll often hear. This rook, if we were to get 2 rooks on here, then they'd actually be pigs on the 7th. But having a rook on the 7th rank is still good because it's very close to the enemy king. We can start gobbling up this kind of pawn. And we're also threatening to take this if they don't move it because we're attacking it twice. They're only defending it once. So just lots of threats here, not only to win more material, but also to win the king. Bishop f8 is Ben Feingold approved. The rest of the position probably isn't, though, for black. Yeah. Bishop b7 is probably the best move. Yes, I would agree. Because it immediately attacks the queen. Even though it's technically hanging the bishop, the queen is more important. But then we have this nice forcing move to get the queen out of dodge, and then we'll win the bishop. But it's tricky. It's one of those things where only one move works. All right, they gave us a free knight. So we can take it. That's totally fine. We can also play here. Takes, takes. It seems to be trading down unnecessarily, though, so let's just take the free stuff. They don't have any threats of back rank mate. That's the only other thing we'd be concerned about at this point. Okay, and now they're allowing us a checkmate in 2, I believe. So we don't even need to take this, even though we can. But again, looking at our forcing moves here, and now that this pawn is out of the way, what does this move do? It gives the king some breathing room, theoretically, but that's not really what we were threatening. We were really threatening a back rank. We were more threatening to go here and maybe here, but the bishop defends. But after here, now that there's not this pawn in the way, after they go here, we can just skip this square and go right for the mate. So let's go for it. And you see why I did 15-minute games? I talk too much. All right, and we have our checkmate. Defended by 2 pieces, bishop and the rook. So at this level, you got to remember, if you're going right next to the king, you got to make sure it's defended, because otherwise the king can just take it. That's something I see a lot with some of my friends who are a little bit lower rated. Got to make sure it's defended. Okay, this is going to be a good one to review, because like I said, I think I made some mistakes. Yeah, it doesn't... Oh, it's actually not terrible. But let's work through it. Okay, we've got the London system and the aggressive queen move. The wayward queen attack, as they say. That's not technically what it's officially called in this particular position, but there is actually a move like that. Or a move, an opening like that. Okay, so queen comes out. We defend. Oh, they say this is only good. I wonder what they say is best. Oh, just taking the pawn. Okay, yeah, fair enough. I did forget about that pawn until later. So another thing to think about is when this queen comes out, it undefends things back here. It doesn't only waste time, it leaves things undefended. Which I missed, so fair enough. Okay, they brought it back. They say this is excellent. I assume the best move is what some people were recommending in chat. Oh, they say this is worse. Hold on, let's run some deeper analysis here. I'm gonna let it run for a few minutes, or a few seconds at least. Yeah, a lot of things are good. Even going with like some kind of a Jobava setup is good here because this knight is out. Again, this pawn being undefended is a problem. We can even do stuff like this, threatening to go here, protected by the bishop, attacking, kind of similar to the fried liver. Wow, the top recommendation from the computer is actually c4. Very interesting. I don't think that's something I would recommend. I think this is a good move. I think this is a fine move because we eventually know we're going to trap the queen. We don't really care so much about this pawn. But if you want to play really solid, I think this is probably the best way to go. If you're getting threatened over here. Knight c3 might be a nice move with the idea queen b4, queen d2, queen takes b2, rook b1. Queen b4, queen d2, queen takes b2, and rook b1. Yes. And then we're trapping. Good point. I'm so bad at visualizing when I'm just reading the moves. But we got there. Yeah, and even this is an inaccuracy. Oh, they're saying this is an inaccuracy. What do they want here? Yeah, okay, that's really funny. They want this move. But what about here, though? Now knight b5. Oh, right. See, I've studied a similar position to this, but in a slightly different move order where the queen doesn't come out here first. But the ideas stay the same. It's like this, and then you can even push a3 and consider some things like this. Yeah, so that totally makes sense. Bishop b4 check is the only consideration. Then I believe we just move the king. Or we can play knight d2. Yeah. Yeah, they're saying the top move here is king f1. Yeah, exactly. It's a common London idea from queen b6. Which, yeah, normally happens after the c-pawn moves up. The queen can come out this way and attack the b-pawn. And then we leave that as a poison pawn with the idea of moving the knight up here, or even moving the knight to first a3 if it's not developed yet, and then here trapping the queen. But anyway, we're not talking about specific theory. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Eric Rosen beat Hikaru one time in a similar line, which I believe was like if I'm remembering right. Something like this. I can't remember the exact moves. This, oh, it wasn't with D4. It was, I think like this. Here, and here, and here, and takes, and here, and then I think it's just like back and forth and you can get a repetition. Something like that. Anyway. I believe he talks about that game in his London lesson with Andrea Botez. One of them. I think there's 3. Anyway, back to our game. Let's go near the end because I think I had another missed win somewhere. This is all fine. Taking here. Yup. Okay, yeah, and this is where our opponent made the mistake. Okay, and this is the best move. So we've reasoned our way to the best move. Thankfully. So taking here, I believe, is just a mistake. It's still fine, but it's not as good as it could have been. Because after this, then we've got this hanging and we've got this about to be hanging after here. So it makes sense. The one time you should go with the forcing move is when you can find something better. And this is the best move. Okay, and then this was a missed win because... Oh, I didn't even consider this. Yeah, that's a good point. Just taking here, and then this is going to be checkmate. Unless they play here. But even if they play here, this covers. Makes sense, makes sense. I was just looking at the more forcing moves. But if we go here, we're double attacking the bishop. Bishop can't move. It's just a faster way. But we found it anyway. If you can take free stuff, just take free stuff. There we go. So if black plays weird moves, gotta consider going Jobava. Yep. Very true. What time we got? I think we've got time for at least one more game. Gonna try and end the stream at about 2 hours, I think. We'll go for one more. Alright, and we get the white pieces again. We're playing a 400. So let's go for the London. Okay, contesting the center right away. We'll bring the bishop out. Okay, and already I can feel that this person seems to know what they're doing. At least a little bit. Okay, this is the one move that I would say does not show what they're doing, or prove they know what they're doing, because you usually want to contest the center with a move like c5. This just prevents the c-pawn from ever moving forward. It also just kind of restricts the queen over there. We'll just continue developing. Develop your pieces, get your king to safety, respond to threats. Should know the drill by now. So oftentimes an idea when this knight is on c6, especially when it's blocking in the c-pawn, is to actually pin it like this, and then if they don't do anything, we can move the knight up here and potentially win it. Pin it and win it. Not win the knight, technically, but win the pawn and maybe even win the rook. Okay, so I kind of know what they're planning here. It's sort of a fried liver type beat. So how can we prevent this knight from moving forward? There's a couple of ways. We can just go like this, which also serves the purpose of completing the pawn chain, the pawn pyramid. We could go like this, which was kind of, the original plan, but then they can start kicking us out and our bishop will end up on a square that's not quite as good as it could have been. So I think I like this move, also kind of enticing them to make this move, blocking the path of the bishop back, and then we can bring this bishop out. So let's go for this. If you can prevent your opponent's ideas, you are going to win a lot of games. There's also the possibility that, so this bishop, when it does come out, can be kind of annoying if your opponent's just copying what you're doing. But you can trade it off, even though this bishop is usually not. Okay, perfect. So now we can look at something like this. We can also look at queen b3, which in fact might have been the better move to consider going here and then, no, but it doesn't quite work. I lied. Forget what I just said. So if we go here, they could kick us out. We could take, go here, threaten the pawn. There's things we can do. So I think this is a little bit more active of a square to put the bishop on. Oh, interesting. Okay. I would not recommend this, usually, unless you know the theory. Taking a piece that hasn't developed yet, trading it off for one of your pieces that has already developed is typically not a great idea. So we can just take back with the rook, and they just traded off their most active piece for basically our least active piece. This knight hadn't even done anything yet. Okay, so we can go here after takes. I think this is all fine. We could also threaten to win this pawn like so. But let's just go here. So we haven't castled yet, but we don't need to castle yet. We can delay that a little bit longer just because the center's pretty locked down. There's nothing that's going to be attacking our king. Okay, and our opponent castles. So this does lose a pawn. It does lose a pawn, but after takes on c6, our opponent can then capture here. Once we capture back, we do have doubled pawns. And then I guess the question is, what does our opponent do then? Maybe moves down here to attack this pawn and attack whatever piece is here. I think I'm calculating this right. Therefore, I think it's actually better to take with the bishop because after takes, we can take with the knight. This also, by the way, prevents this rook from coming in. And after the bishop trade here and here, if the queen moves down, looking to kind of fork these pieces, we can simply drop the knight back. And then we have time to castle. So that's a move order thing. If the bishop was the one we left here, then it actually would be a fork and they'd be winning their pawn back. And as long as they don't have any other moves, I guess the only other consideration would be here, but then we just grab it. So let's take with the bishop. Oh, I guess what else I didn't calculate is this. Okay, great. Oh, also this attacks the queen. I kind of forgot about that. And so did our opponent, apparently. So this is everything we calculated. The problem is I didn't even calculate that I can just grab the queen. And I like free stuff. So let's take the free stuff. We'll take some more free stuff. And now our next move is just going to be to castle. It's not super necessary, honestly. Okay. So I will say, if our opponent had chosen to play on, in this position, we just want to trade things down. Because eventually, if imagine we have equal trades, if we have a rook traded for a rook traded for a rook, and then we just have the remaining pieces left, our opponent will have a knight, which is worth 3 points, versus our queen, which is worth 9 points. And, like, who do you think is going to win that? Probably the person with the queen. So that's why it's good to trade down when you're up material. We'll take a quick look at the game review. I do want to see if taking with the bishop was the right move. I think it was. 97% accuracy, by the way. Not that those numbers necessarily mean anything, but it's, you know, bigger number, better person, obviously. Okay, and this was a good move. I assume they would prefer just developing the bishop. Yeah, bishop b5 they like better. Which we considered, but prophylaxis with c3 is a little bit better. Would queen b3 not work because the bishop on f1 could block the queen? Queen b3. Bishop on f1 could block the queen. I'm not sure where exactly you were talking about. f8. It must have been a little bit later in the game, I assume. Stop me when I get to that particular position that you're talking about. Was it think of c4 instead of bishop b5? It was a bit later, yeah. Oh yeah, we also considered c4. Here. I think it's still... I think they like it. Oh my gosh, the engine is taking a million years. I will let it sit for a second, though. Yeah, it's like half a pawn's worth of advantage. It's saying 0.32. I think if I let it sit a little bit longer, it would give me even a better advantage. But typically the idea, just for those of you who are London nerds, after this, if they copycat, the idea is to go here. And if they protect like this, then we go queen b3. And typically the move you see is queen b6, just to protect this pawn and activate the queen. And then after this, forcing the queen trade, pretty much forcing the queen trade. We have these doubled pawns, but they're tricky. They can push forward, and even protecting like this doesn't quite work because this rook is undefended. So something like, oh yes, it's not our move. Something like this, we can push. This, we can even push again. Or like I said, even if this, like we can push again, and then we can take with the bishop, and then the pawn can't take because the rook will be lost. So that's kind of the idea. And then we just have another b pawn to push. Bonus b pawn. Yeah, and you can also play it with black, exactly. Oh, and you get a brilliant out of it. So there's a very similar setup with black, where black plays an early c5. Save like this, c5, c3, queen b6, queen b3, push, takes, and then black has the b pawn to push. So yeah, it looks weird because these pawns are doubled and you typically want to avoid doubled pawns, but it's actually kind of fun to play. And you get rid of the doubled pawns pretty quickly. And then your plan is just so simple. You're like, ooga booga, push the pawn, and then the pawn gets traded, okay, push the other pawn, right? Okay. Let's play one more game. That one was really fast. Did somebody unfollow and then follow again to make me reach the follower goal? What the heck? Who did this? Okay. Which side of this kind of position do you prefer? I prefer having the doubled b pawns. For a while, I tried the line where I would let black go queen b6, queen b3, have the b pawns. But I think having the simpler plan is just by nature easier to play. And as weird as it looks, that just is, frankly, the simpler plan to use. Okay, we'll have one last game here. Our rating is climbing quite slowly. No, I didn't ask someone to unfollow Rookie. I asked if somebody did because because we had the notification that the follower goal was met earlier. And then I dropped to 999, and then I got 1,000 again. But listen. Okay, this is interesting. So the idea here is to develop the bishop to g2. That's called a fianchetto. But we'll immediately strike at the center with d5. Playing the French. Once again, anti-London players unfollowed. Yeah, I think it is similar to a King's Indian attack. Okay, so they take the pawn. I think that's good, just releasing the tension in the center. And now after this move, we'll definitely defend with the pawn just to blunt the bishop. So it only has 3 squares to look at. Wow, I'm curious if I've ever had this on my main account. French defense ready Spielman attack is what it's called. Oh, interesting. Okay. So this is a check. It's not scary because we wanted to play this move anyway, blocking with the pawn. The other reason this move is not so great is because you played g2 or g3 for a reason. You wanted to put your bishop on g2. That's the whole reason you play this move. So moving it out somewhere else is just a waste of time. So we can just kick it back. And now the pawn is attacking it. And now the bishop has to waste another move moving. So actually the better move probably would have been to go all the way back home and find a nice spot on g2. So now we can continue development. I think I like the knight on c6, although eventually it can be pinned. I think it's okay though. Here and here. Later in the speedrun, we'll probably play... Okay, so they really like giving checks. We can just continue developing pieces, probably with something like this. Or even something like this. This is probably better. So just bishop out, because the threat is to go here. Sorry, I'm not explaining this very well. If I were to play the bishop to e6, the threat with the pawn is that if I don't get this king out of the way, the bishop is pinned, right? So the bishop can't move, because if it moves, then the king is in check, and that's just an illegal move. So if I weren't to do anything, then they could push the pawn up to f5. My bishop still can't move, and I'm just going to have to allow it to be taken. It is a slow chess speedrun. Okay, so we'll move the bishop out here. Is the moral of that story? Man, I've dropped so many frames. What is wrong with my stream? That's so annoying. I can like see the delay in the OBS screen, but I don't think it's affecting the actual stream. Okay. Now I'm pretty happy to castle. We should ask what this move does. It grabs some control of the center. It also gives the bishop room to come out. I guess the question would be, so I'm always going to be looking at this move. Right now they can defend this bit. So, okay, if I played queen out, giving the check, they can defend this bishop, which would otherwise be hanging with the knight. And I don't really have anything. After I castle, I'll have more opportunities to like go here and yada yada. So let's just castle. Also, because the queen and the king are lined up, this is a common theme we're seeing. The king doesn't get to safety in time, and our opponent will pay the price for it. So we can also go here. And then after the bishop moves, you get the point. There's some threats. So I like this. Again, still thinking about this kind of a move. This b-pawn is also hanging. So things like queen b6 are a possibility. But then they can just drop the bishop back. Actually, probably putting it on a better square anyway. So I really want to win this queen. Bishop h3. Yes, that's probably another thought, but only if the knight moves out, because I can't play it right now because the knight is attacking that square. But if the knight goes out, that might be a good way to prevent them from castling. Definitely a good thought. So other than some rogue checks, I would say our opponent is playing pretty well. Which you'll find rogue checks at all levels of the game. Especially in faster time controls. Oh. Okay, I spoke too soon. They forgot that they can castle. Or maybe they don't know how. Or maybe they're just afraid of having these two pieces lined up. It would have been better to move the queen in that case. Although then, of course, okay, I think what they forgot is they can just drop the bishop back to defend against anything on this file. I think that's the issue. So now how can we take advantage of this? I'm considering this move. I know we haven't developed any of our pieces yet, or very few of our pieces. This is a possibility. They can block with the, what's it called? The pawn. This might also be a possibility, but I'm really considering this. I don't know how principled it is. It's threatening the bishop. After it takes, we can take with the rook, and then after the knight moves, we're winning the queen. But you shouldn't move pieces more than once in the opening, unless you have a good reason to. Which is why I'm considering here, but maybe we need to go faster. Okay, let's go for this. This just feels right. I don't know if it is. Also, if they kick us right away, this bishop is undefended. Knights move backwards. We win. Everything feels right here. Yes, exactly. So yeah, we are going against opening principles. Usually if you don't know what to do, developing a piece is best. But in this case, I think the threats are just too much. So I think it's worth breaking the rules. But you have to know the rules before you can break them. If you're able to verbalize a good reason that you can break the rule, then go for it. Okay, and we're going to take with the rook here. I don't know why I can't think of the names of the dang pieces today. Take it with the rook, so now after the knight moves, the queen will be under attack. And we're even threatening things like this. Giving the check, and then after takes, yeah. Another possibility is this. So giving up these two for the queen is similar to what we did in the last game. And that turned out pretty well. That turned out pretty well. Also, if we go here and the queen just moves, we win the rook. I don't know. It seems pretty good. The king is still in the center and will be able to develop very quickly after this. So picking up a pawn on our way out, and then we're going to win the queen on the next move, unless they move, and then we'll win the rook. Knight c3 would have been more forcing, but this one picks up a pawn, so Okay, great. I believe we can just win the rook now. I'm pretty happy to just take the rook. I like free stuff. And now again, king is in the center. Let's develop our pieces towards that center. Okay, also, this threatens here. So the only saving move would be this. I don't think they have any more threats. We can also do things like this now. Just looking at that pawn. Okay, let's just threaten mate. And then they have to play this move to defend it. And we'd be able to mate with the queen or the rook. Okay. Nice. So again, developing pieces. Even when you're down material, you gotta get more pieces into the party. Yeah, so after here, if they had played, I mean, I wasn't super concerned. I think a move like this, just attacking pawns and threatening checks, threatening rooks, threatening everything. It just gets tricky when you leave your king in the center. All right, let's run one last game review, and then we'll be done for the day. We made it to 277 today. Not too shabby. I think this is going to go a bit slower than I anticipated, but that's okay. Plenty of content then. Takes. We block with the pawn. Knight out, queen out. Yep, and this was the best way to block. Let me know if you guys have any questions about this game or any of the other ones. But we'll be about done here in just a little bit. Okay, they actually did not hate this move. I wonder what... Oh, okay. So they do just have to get out of the way of the pin. Because I guess I didn't even consider if they were to just move the queen. Like, this is going to be a double check. So say, for example, they move the queen here. Okay, come on. It's so slow. Double check by the rook, by the bishop. Means the king has to move. So this is why double checks are so important. And it's calling it an accuracy, but it's just a good idea to keep in mind. And then I guess like we can go here. That's probably not even necessary. We can probably just go for mate. Or at least more material. They like queen a5. Just like, yeah. Very interesting position. The chess servers aren't good today. Okay, that's good to know that it's not just me. Although my stream is kind of janky too. So I don't know. Okay, they did like this move. I'm curious what some other options might be here. Oops. Yeah, 94, one of, if not the best move. B5. Another alternative. That's pretty funny. They also like bishop b4. Bishop b4? What about bishop here, though? Okay, it's still so the evaluation here, let me just show you guys. Oh, whoops. Wrong one. There we go. Like, look how nice the evaluation is already, and we haven't even traded any pieces. We've traded one pawn. And black is just winning. Because the king is stuck in the center, and their pieces are on bad squares. So if you take away one thing from today, Develop your pieces. Get your king to safety. And take free stuff. I hope that helps. Alright, we're gonna call it for today. Let me find somebody to raid. So just to reiterate, I did create a new VOD channel. Oh, I should have made a command for that. I'll have that ready for next time. But I will be posting VODs on YouTube from now on. And so these will be available there. I'll also be posting 1 or 2 games a week from these speedruns. Just on the normal YouTube channel. What would you say to 794 trying to get to 1,000? Okay, if you haven't learned the basic checkmates yet, that will give you a huge boost of confidence, by which I mean, can you checkmate with just a queen? Can you checkmate with a queen and a rook? Can you checkmate with 2 rooks? Can you checkmate with just a rook? All that will give you much more confidence to go into endgames, and will save you a lot of points, because a lot of times you end up just repeating moves because you're not sure what to do. If you have learned those, yes, stop giving away pieces. Yeah, the main thing that we're going to be talking about in the speedrun is the questions you should be asking yourself. So thought process. When your opponent moves, what does that move do? When you're about to move, make sure you're not putting a piece on a square where it can be captured, right? Just really simple things like that. If you can keep up and win material, you're just going to win your games. If you're interested in openings, you can study openings. That's kind of where we're at. Who's live? Who's live? Who's live? No problem. Let's raid. Have we raided Zephcat recently? Does anyone remember? Or did she raid us? Wait, are they offline? Never mind, I think they just went offline. Never mind. I forgore. You wanna make me do other games? You mean other chess games or other games? Anita. We could raid Anita. Sure. Anita Drink. Oh, I was watching her the other day. I don't know why I'm not following. Alright, we'll raid Anita. Non-chess games? Give me some suggestions and I'll consider it. I don't stream enough to play anything that's not chess. I don't really play any other games that aren't chess. I could play some Minecraft. Drawy. Checkers. Okay, raid. Oh, I did the wrong thing. Ah, raid. Drawy is fun when there's more people on stream. Yeah, that's the question. Getting more people to join. Alright guys, go check out Anita. Thanks for watching today. Appreciate you. We will be back with more speedrun content soon. I don't know when soon is, but we'll have to see. Or marbles. Yeah, that's a good one. Alright. Thanks for watching, guys. See you later.